Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Graze Counter, a bullet hell shoot 'em up that wants you to get up close and personal with the enemy bullets. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. So there are a couple modes that we can play in Graze Counter. There's the mission mode, which has all these small little missions or objectives that we're trying to complete, usually within a certain amount of time. And there's also the game start. There's, of course, a practice mode as well. So we'll start the game, and you're taken to your player select. Here we only have two of the ships unlocked as default, the Type 1 and the Type 2, April Divider and Freedom Dancer. Now, there are 8 total ships in the game that you can unlock, but at this point I haven't played enough of the game to unlock anymore. Still, that's definitely a big plus. Having that many unlocks available is something to definitely work towards. So after we've selected our character, we're taken to the skill select, and there's 3 we can select from. There's the auto shield, kind of self-explanatory. The overgraze, basically as you're grazing bullets, they'll actually disappear if you graze them long enough. And the extend guard, which extends the length of time that you're guarded during a counterattack. For our purposes today, let's go ahead and take the overgraze. That's the one I've played around the most with. Then you have a layout configuration you can change. This is basically just, do you want your shot to be on the same button as your slow movement or focus movement, or do you want them to be on separate buttons? I think having them on the same definitely works for the game, so we'll go ahead and stick with the include, which appears to be the default configuration. And then you also have the difficulty. There are 3 difficulty levels: Novice, Arcade, and Expert. We're just a little novice. And we begin Graze Counter. So, we do have our default shot, which also, since we use the includes the slow movement. And we're always at the same power level. We're never weaker than when we begin the game, which is something that I do personally really like. So the main point in Graze Counter, though, as you might expect from the name of the game, is grazing enemy bullets and, well, countering based off of that. Because it's not counter as in, like, you count things, but counter as in counter-attack. So, that is our Graze Counter. We build up the meter for that by grazing enemy bullets. After it's been used, as we graze enemy bullets, we'll see a percentage climb up to 100. And once it hits 100, we can activate our Graze Counter. Actually, you can activate it earlier than that, but you won't get quite the full benefit. At full 100% meter strength, you actually have a brief moment of invulnerability, a shield, that allows you to, well, take enemy bullets if you aren't hitting them with your counter beam, or even, well, survive contact with enemy ships. Then, as we use the Graze Counter, that was a bad time to show it off, but we actually collect gold stars that power up the break meter, the other power attack that we have. So I should be able to show that off with the boss here. There is a little bit of event scenes, kind of like a visual novel-esque before you fight a boss. So here we have Felicia. Welcome, miss, who acts like Mister, or perhaps you're a real, well, whatever. We have received numerous data about your resolution. Is it weird? Is it really emotion for an individual? We want to know why you dare. But not enough time for that, so just tell me, for what you fight. A little bit of English there. So, back to what we were trying to do. So we'll try and build up a Graze Counter, and hopefully get enough... We did get enough gold stars to activate our break mode. In this one, you get a high power mode where you're generating red stars off of the enemy. And those red stars in turn can be collected for point bonuses. The way that you turn on the auto collect is you just have to stop firing for just a second, and then the stars, be them yellow or red, will get absorbed into your ship. There's, well, I guess we'll start talking about that in the next stage. That's the end of the first stage. relatively straightforward and simple, so it's a really good introduction to the game. I feel that they did well with that, and the boss fights so far have been really the standout, as you have all these bullets flying around in all these different directions and ways that you have to dodge to, well, both build your Graze Counter, use your Graze Counter, and use the break mode to quickly defeat the boss, as there is also a time bonus associated. So we do have these enemies that we see periodically that'll drop these power-ups as they are. I like to pick the one that gives us the boost to score, but you can also get one that gives you a temporary shield or fill all the gauges, meaning the counter and the break gauge. So let's talk a little bit about scoring while we're at it. So as you graze the bullets, there's a meter just beneath the character portrait that fills up. And as that meter fills, you'll start building up a multiplier all the way up to 1,000. And that multiplier will, of course, increase your score. So you can get some massive point bonuses if you're able to keep it high. It's based off of your graze, though, not even defeating enemies or anything along those lines. So if you don't graze a bullet for enough time, that meter will start to drop, and drop quite rapidly, actually. So it's something you want to work on. So it does appear that, at least in novice mode, we can take a hit before we're in critical danger of getting destroyed and losing a life. You might have noticed there's occasionally a ping sound. That's the shield that's present going or getting exhausted. So these enemies can't be defeated, so we're just working our way through this section, just dodging the bullets or grazing them and using them to build meter should we desire. We actually should be collecting some points here. It's silly of me not to be. But we're keeping our multiplier high, and I think we're just about to the boss of Stage 2. Quadruple Spike has our multiplier just went into free fall. Hey, I was waiting for you. I know why you are here. To protect a person, isn't it? You deserve to my favor. Your intention is clear. Moreover, you have enough power to overcome it. I'm sure you can reach anywhere if only the person does not change. Despite living in the same world, someday two worlds will cross over. How will you act then? Come on, show me your justice. And cue second boss fight. So this guy has an interesting type of attack. So throughout the course of the second stage, we had all these enemies that were using these cubes. He uses those in excess, firing them in like a massive consecutive beam at us. It was problematic too, is even with the Graze Counter or the... Oh yeah, he also has this like really neat attack where he actually freezes his bullets in space for... Yeah, he freezes his bullets for a time. I think it's a really neat thing to see in a battle. Anyway, his like cubes actually block our shots, making it quite difficult to deal decent damage to him. But just as long as we can get some Graze Counters in there, I think we can take care of him without much problem. And Stage 2 down. And that, basically in a nutshell, is Graze Counter. It's all about grazing the bullets, building your counter, using your counter, and then also building your break to use break mode. Really, it's a straightforward enough mechanic, but it's one that I think is a lot of fun. So what kind of minus flavors do I have for it? Strangely enough, I've actually had some issues with the UI. So the game uses an outside launcher, which in of itself isn't necessarily terrible, but it's not something that I'm a huge fan. Then there's just some quirkiness with, at least on my setup, the full screen not working quite right. So that could just be something that, like I said, is my own problem. And then, just a minor issue, when you pause the game, it doesn't bring up any menu. So if you're looking to quit back to menu or exit the game, that's an option is not presented. And something that I actually missed, something that I would be able to make use of. So there's that. And also... they're both funny and bad at the same time. The English translations are... It makes it kind of hard to know what's going on. There is a story about, like, cyberspace AI that's basically holding all these people hostage, kind of like SAO style. Similar. They're trapped in cyberspace, basically. and so that's kind of what the story is going on, but it seems really disjointed and bizarre, and having it all in that English doesn't really help it all that much. But as far as plus flavors are concerned, the Graze Counter is awesome. I really like the core mechanic, the titular mechanic, as it were, to the game itself. The scoring is also a lot of fun. I do like how that it's entirely based upon your grazing of the enemy bullets, and that's how you can increase your score. Then there's also the promise of unlockables, making yourself better at the game so you can see more characters, so you can go and unlock more in the game. I definitely think that's great. So I definitely feel if you're looking for an indie bullet hell that does things a little bit differently, this one could be a good choice to check out. Available on Steam for a relatively reasonable price. I'll include a link in the description below, so if you're interested in Graze Counter, I highly recommend checking it out. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me for Shoot 'em Up Saturday today, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.